NFL Talk with Elite Wages.
Yo, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Talk Elite Wages. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everyone who celebrates from Thursday. We had some very, very fun bets on Thursday Night Football. I won't go into them too much. I'll leave that for next week's recap episode, but I am going to say we hit the touchdown treble. So we got the plus 1900, which is 19 in decimal and an 18 to 1 in fraction. We hit that. 3 touchdown scorers, Laporta, Dowdle and Reed all came in for me, and we got some money. We got some fun money in on Thursday Night Football as well, but we'll leave that there. We'll recap that next week, and we'll move on to NFL Sunday. So obviously with the main focus this week being on the Thanksgiving early games, I've got a slightly shorter card. I wouldn't say it's too short, but a slightly shorter card for Sunday and Monday this week. But we still found some winners. And the schedule over the festive period is always like a tough time to navigate. You got games on random days. So obviously we've got we had 3 Thursday Night Football this week, and we got a Friday game this week. I know Christmas is on a Wednesday this year, so I think there's 2 games on Christmas Day this year. You got some on Boxing, you got some like sort of scattered around everywhere for the festive period. So the schedule times for my podcast episodes will vary a little bit. Obviously, I'm not going to be recording on Christmas Day, which is the day I normally record and post, which is a Wednesday. So that may be out on a Tuesday. So there's going to be a little bit of jiggling around to do, so I can continue to post these and to help people make money. So we'll come to that when we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But obviously, let's get into this weekend. And we're finally in December, Christmas, festive period, New Year, everything like that. But let's start off December with making some money. So the first game I'm going to look into it's actually a tough game to call this week. It's going to be the Rams and Saints game, but I have the Rams winning this by a field goal or more. The Saints obviously had a red hot start to their season, opening 2 games. They scored 90 plus, but in the games after, they suffered 7 straight losses before winning the 2 most recent games. The run game for the Saints has been very, very poor, but during the last 2 games, they've actually improved a lot. Since Rizzi took over, the Saints have averaged 155 yards on the ground, and the Rams actually give up the 4th most rushing yards to opponents, and they were just sliced apart by Barkley and the Eagles for over 300 rushing yards. However, I don't actually expect that to be the case in this game. So after such a terrible game defending the run against the Rams, against the Eagles, I fully expect them to create a tougher unit up front to defend the run. The Saints are ranked in 11th for most points per game, but that is slightly inflated due to their hot start. Obviously, the 90 points in the first 2 games has inflated that number. But during the Saints' losing streak, they only managed to score over 20 just 3 times, and they averaged just 16 points. The Rams are in a tough spot where wins are a must, especially with how tight their division has gotten. They're all 6-5 and 5-6, which is a very, very close division. The Rams have got a very solid unit on offense, the run game as well, led by Williams, and in all honesty, he hasn't been utilised as much as he could have done, obviously due to being behind in quite a few games, which again was mainly due to injuries. That saw them struggle a little bit on offense, but he is still 6th for most rushing yards per game, and he's been fairly productive on his attempt as well. The Rams also have a solid passing attack led by Matt Stafford, who is ranked as a top 10 quarterback. His receivers, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, obviously helping him out in that area. The Rams quarterback, Matt Stafford, he obviously continues to play at a high level. He leads a passing attack that puts up 236.7 yards per game, which is 9th in the NFL. Additionally, LA's passing attack has been a red-hot offense since getting Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back from injury. And obviously playing on the road isn't a concern for me in this game. They've actually totaled 258.4 passing yards per game on the road, which is 4th in the NFL this season. The Saints secondary has been awful this year. They actually allow 156.6 passing yards, which is 30th in the NFL. And they just gave up 377 passing yards to in week 12. Additionally, they actually traded away their best cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore. He's gone to Washington, so they don't pose much of a threat. And I actually believe that Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp will have a big day in New Orleans this week. In total, the New Orleans defense allowed the second most yards per game. That obviously could be a huge problem when they have to defend against Stafford, Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, all those players. And obviously this is a must-win game for the Rams. They realistically have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Saints do. I'm going to go back to my initial preseason read on the Rams making the playoffs, and I actually did have them down as a sneaky contender to win the division. And I think all that comes together, those pieces fit together with a win here. So this starts with a win in this game. So I'm going to go 1 unit Rams minus 2.5 at odds of 1.9. Okay, moving on to the next game, we're going to go to the Seahawks and Jets game. So this shouldn't be a surprise to many people that I'm back fading the Jets. But this time, every time it's for good reason, but this one I feel like is a very good reason. The Jets are now mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, which now means they've got nothing to play for. They're playing for nothing. 3-8 with what was supposed to be a Super Bowl contending roster. You add Devontae Adams, and that hadn't helped at all. This week there's been many rumours circulating about Aaron Rodgers. He may sit. He may even be put on injury reserve. It's a bit of a no one really knows at the moment. If that is the case and Aaron Rodgers does sit, he does go on IR, I'd feel even more confident in fading the Jets with Tyrod Taylor. If Aaron Rodgers can't win with this talented team, because let's face it is a talented team, there's talent all over the field. But if he can't win with this team, then I don't think Tyrod Taylor can win either. The Jets are actually ranked in the bottom 5 for offense. They average only 18 points per game. They've only scored over 20 points 5 times this year. Moving the ball downfield has been a problem. They total the 6th lowest total yards per game with 294. Their run game has been their biggest issue. They total the 3rd lowest amount of rushing yards per game. Their defense has been a slight improvement. They sit out just outside the top 10 for points per game allowed. They average 22 to opponents, but they have allowed 7 of their 11 opponents over this number this season. The Jets are they're ranked second best passing defense in the league. They average just 174 yards through the air allowed, but they have only faced 2 top 10 passing teams so far this year. They were the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. They lost both games by 6 and by 13. They will now host the second best passing team in the league, led by Geno Smith, who has the second most passing yards in the league. He averages 275 yards per game. And the Seahawks are right back in the mix of the NFC West. Everything to play for in that division. They're sitting joint top position with 6-5 record after 2 back-to-back wins. And they're probably playing at the moment in the most difficult division. It's the tightest division in the league at the moment. Everyone is 6-5 or 5-6. Obviously, like I said, they come off back-to-back solid divisional wins against the 49ers and the Cardinals. Momentum is on the Seahawks side, especially when they probably have the best matchup from any other NFC West team this week. A lot of them are playing as underdogs, and I think the Cardinals have, the Vikings and things like that. So a lot of them have tough matchups, and I believe this is sort of the easiest matchup for the Seahawks this week to sort of gain a little bit of a lead in that division. The Seahawks have averaged 22 points per game this year, and obviously have a very solid passing game as they rank second most for passing yards per game. But the Seahawks run game is going to need to step it up in this week's matchup. They currently have the 5th lowest rushing yards per game, and the Jets do allow a decent amount of rushing yards on the ground. So they may need to try and exploit the run game and the run defense of the Jets to create more options for Geno in the passing game. Defensively, they rank in a similar spot to the Jets. They both allow 22 points per game, like I said before, and in the last 2 wins, in the back-to-back wins, they look very, very decent on defense. So they allowed 17 to San Francisco, 6 to Arizona, and I believe the Seahawks want this game more, and I think they have more to play for. The receiver core of Metcalf, Lockett, and Smith-Njigba is going to be tough for the Jets secondary to defend against. When you add in Walker, who can, and he has run the ball well on occasions, I think it's going to take a full team effort to take down these joke Jets. So I think the Seahawks win this game, so I'm going to go 1 unit Seahawks money line at odds of 1.75. We'll move on to the next game. It's a late window game, and it's going to be probably my game of the week. I'm actually really excited to watch this game. So it's going to be the Eagles and the Ravens game. This game is, it's my game of the week, potentially game of the week for the NFL as well this week. Both teams are very similar in the way they approach games. Both teams are very strong in the run game. Barkley and Henry both lead the lines for both teams. They both have good passing and mobile quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. And, both teams aren't really separated by much in terms of their stats either. So the Ravens are second for points per game, averaging 30, and the Eagles are seventh, averaging 26. The Eagles have just surpassed the Ravens to top the rushing standards by 13 yards per game. And the Ravens rank, they do rank significantly higher in the passing game. But even with that, on paper, this game is fairly even. The Ravens bounced back from a tough divisional loss to beat the Chargers in Monday Night Football last week. But while being offensively sound, putting up a ton of points, their defense has been exploited a lot. It's been very leaky. They've allowed 9 teams to score 23 points or more from their 12 games this year, and they average a bottom 10, 24 points per game as well. As well as this, they allow opponents to throw for the second most amount of yards through the air, average 277 yards per game. But on the flip side, they do have the best run defense in the league, averaging 77 yards on the ground to opponents. With that being said, they have only faced 3 teams ranked inside the top 10 for rushing, but none of them come close to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the nearest opponent that the Ravens have faced being 50 yards short of the Eagles' average. Obviously, they'll now face the Eagles. They face a solid quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and they face the best running back in the league in Saquon Barkley. The Eagles had a rocky start to the season. They went 2-2 in the first 4, and they actually struggled to score a mass amount of points. We all know they are capable of scoring a lot of points, but they did struggle in the first couple of weeks. But since their bye week, they've won 7 straight. They've scored 23 or more in 6 of 7, and they averaged 30 points per game in those 7 games. Another thing to add to this is they have won all 7 of those by an average of 15 points. The Eagles, obviously, they're just flying. As I said, they now rank as the best run offense in the league, just surpassed the Ravens. Defensively, they've also been solid. They allow the 6th least points per game on average, which is 18 on average. But in those 7 straight wins, they've actually decreased that to 14 points per game allowed, and only allowed 2 of those teams to have 20 or more points. The Eagles are ranked 7th for rushing yards allowed, averaging 99 per game, and they are actually ranked 3rd for passing yards allowed as well, averaging 175. Impressively, averaging only 139 in their last 3 games. Obviously, the Ravens are going to be a huge step up in competition, but I actually believe the Eagles have an edge in this one in every area of the field. So, in summary, the momentum is well and truly on the Eagles' side after winning 7 straight. The Ravens obviously boast the NFL's top offense, but have struggled against elite defenses, like they did against the Chiefs and the Steelers. And the Eagles actually rank as the NFL's top defense during the 7-game win streak, allowing just 222 yards per game. Roquan Smith is questionable for this game as well, which could open up lanes for Hurts and Barkley in the passing and the run game. Everything in this game, to me, leans in the way of the Eagles, so I'm going to suggest keeping the +3, and I'm going to say the Eagles win outright. So we're going to go 1 unit Eagles money line at +135, which is 2.35 in decimal. Okay, so we're going to move on now actually to my first player prop of the week, and that's going to be in the Patriots and Colts game. To me, this is a game that could quite literally go in any direction. It could go towards the Patriots, it could go towards the Colts. It depends, obviously, which team shows up for which, for either team. I actually believe the Colts have played better this season as a whole, but as of late, the Patriots have started to pick things up, and they actually look fairly decent in the last couple of games. 2 wins in the last 5. Those 2 losses that they were able to keep within 1 score. So If they haven't won, they've kept them very, very close. So they've been quite competitive so far. Late on in the season so far. The Colts, on the other hand, have slipped up in their most recent 5. They actually started 4-3. They are now 5-7. They actually only won 1 of their last 4 in the last 5. And even that one win wasn't really convincing. They just won by 1 point. So those 5 games, they've actually allowed all their opponents to score 20 or more, averaging 25 points per game in those 5. The Colts have actually struggled to contain quarterbacks, and they allow the 6th most passing yards per game, averaging 233. Drake May has now thrown for over 200 yards in 4 of his 5 full game appearances as a starter. And one person in particular who he has used multiple times is Douglas. I backed him a few weeks ago. I backed this market a few weeks ago. I'm going to back it again. So basically, Douglas has been a really solid option and a contributor for this offense in recent weeks. He actually leads all Patriots receivers for targets with 28 more than second place, and he has over double the receptions than second place too. He's averaging 5.5 targets on the year with 4 receptions per game, and that has actually increased to 6.75 targets and 5.5 receptions in his last 4 games. In total, he's actually had 4 or more receptions in 7 of 12 games. In the games where he has 4 receptions or more, he actually receives 50 yards or more in all but 1. So obviously, if he's targeted, he's getting the ball, he's running, he's getting those extra yardage, and he's making himself known to defenses, and he's been a really solid contributor to this team. Douglas and Drake May have actually built a decent connection, and it has helped the Patriots offense. Like I said, they've won 2, and 2 of their losses within 1 score, so offensively looking a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. So I actually fully expect Douglas to be the go-to guy for Drake May again. Keep them moving, and I expect them to be targeted quite often. This one is a bit of a tricky one. I don't actually have lines. I did have lines. It was at 4.5 for Douglas's receptions. They have just been taken down. Apparently he is questionable with an ankle. But I am going to take it if it comes back on. I am going to take it. So I'm going to advise you all to take this as well. I'm just checking out, still not on there. So we're going to go whatever the line is. I'm going to play this up to 6. So 4.5, 5.5. We're going to go 1 unit for Douglas receptions. And we'll move on to my last play of the week. Actually, I did say it was a short card. And my final player prop is going to be in the Bengals and the Steelers game. So it wouldn't actually be a normal week if I didn't have a few spots, that I'm willing to take in a divisional game. So we're back on a divisional game, Bengals and Steelers. I actually think the Steelers are my most bet team so far this year, and honestly, I think I've played something in their games almost every week. But normally it is a bet where I'm favouring them, and this week I'll be taking a player prop against them. It goes without saying that the Steelers are probably the best defense in the league. In my opinion, they are anyway. Their pass rush gets home often. Their run defense is solid, and they're actually half decent in pass coverage as well, especially in limiting passing touchdowns, which they are second best, averaging only 0.8 per game. So why am I actually going to go against the grain and back Joe Burrow to throw 2 or more this week? Simply because it's Joe Burrow. I don't think I need many more reasons than that. No, he's having another MVP caliber season. It's just a real shame his results don't correspond to the numbers he's been putting up. Joe Burrow, I think he's 3rd for most passing yards, and he's thrown 27 touchdowns, which is joint 1st in the league, averaging 2.4 per game. He's actually thrown multiple touchdowns in 8 of 11 games, including 3 straight. And in those 3, he threw 5, 4, and 3, with the 3 being in last week's Monday Night Football game against the Chargers. And coincidentally, the Chargers allow the least amount of yards in the league this year and the least amount of points in the league this year. I believe this is going to be a similar matchup where the Bengals will need to win. It's all down to Joe. They're in crunch time now where wins are a necessity for them, especially against teams like the Steelers where they are sort of running away with this division. The Bengals' run game's started to pick up a little bit, but still isn't elite, so it's likely that the run game is going to be abandoned. It's going to be down to the pass game and Joe Burrow. It's crunch time. They're clutching at straws really. They need wins. Wins are needed. Starting this week against the top defense. It is worth noting that the Steelers have only allowed 2 teams to throw for 2 or more touchdowns this season so far, but Joe has thrown 2 or more touchdowns against the Steelers in his career in 3 or 4 games. So I'm going to back him to do so again in this game. A little bit risky. Basically going with the hot hand and Joe Burrow, his need to put this team on his back and to get that win. Throwing touchdowns obviously is a necessity for this team. The run game is pretty non-existent in that category. So it's all down to Joe. I believe Joe's going to put up a fight even if they don't win. I think he will drag them as far as he can take them. We're going to go 1.5 units on this one for Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns at odds of 1.6. So that actually does bring us to the end of this episode. I did say it was a short one. Obviously, the main focus was on the Thanksgiving games and the Black Friday game. We've got some winners. I'll recap those next week on next Wednesday's episode. But yeah, we've had a good Thursday Night Football Thanksgiving so far. And I appreciate everyone for listening and tuning in for this long. My link tree will be linked in the bio. It would obviously mean a lot to me if you could all click on the link and follow me on all socials there. Like, subscribe, everything is free. Follow me, I follow back as well. So let's grow together as well. If you know anyone that's into sports gambling or anyone that sort of just likes some stats and things like that, stats fanatic like myself, send them over here. Let them listen and let me help more people. Try and expand me a little bit more. Let me help more people win some money this week. Again, appreciate everyone. I'll be back next Wednesday with the recap for NFL Week 13. Good luck, everyone. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. I'll see you later.